Why do some men remain calm while the world screams for their attention? It's not kindness. It's not patience. It's the most ruthless power move you'll never see coming. Every second you spend reacting to someone unworthy, you lose a piece of yourself you'll never get back. Not metaphorically, literally. Attention is not infinite. It's not renewable. You have a finite amount. And every person you acknowledge, every insult you address, every provocation you engage drains that reserve. And here's what they don't tell you. The people who know how to take your attention also know how to take your power. You think you're being mature by responding. You think you're being strong by addressing the disrespect. You're not. You're feeding the system that keeps you controllable. Look at your day. How many hours did you spend replaying conversations with people who don't matter? How much mental energy did you burn crafting responses to criticism from sources you don't respect? How many times did you check if they saw your message, your post, your proof that you're not what they said you were? That's the trap, and you've been living in it. In Machiavelli's courts, the princes who responded to every slight were the princes who fell. Because response is recognition, recognition is validation, and validation is the transfer of power from the withholder to the beggar. The kings who remained silent, who withdrew their presence without explanation, became magnetic, feared, untouchable. They understood what you're about to learn. Your attention is the most expensive thing you possess, and the moment you start giving it away to anyone who demands it, you become cheap. This is not about ignoring people to hurt them. Hurt requires emotion. Emotion makes you predictable. This is about something colder, strategic absence, weaponized indifference, the art of making yourself selectively invisible until the world bends to see you on your terms. Most men are generous with their attention because they were taught that engagement equals strength. They were conditioned to believe that silence is avoidance, that withdrawal is weakness, that explaining yourself is dignity. They're slaves pretending to be diplomats. You're about to become something else. Niccolo Machiavelli spent his life studying power. Not the fantasy of it, the mechanics. And he noticed something the philosophers missed. The prince who chases is the prince who falls. When you pursue, when you explain, when you defend, when you react, you hand over the frame. The other person becomes the judge. You become the defendant. And defendants don't hold power. They beg for it. Machiavelli called this the art of calculated absence. The ruler who made himself too available became common, accessible, predictable. His presence lost value because it was never scarce. But the ruler who withdrew, who refused audiences, who left questions unanswered, who made his attention a prize to be earned, became feared. Not because he was cruel, because he was expensive. This is not retreat. Retreat is what you do when you're afraid. Withdrawal is what you do when you're in control. In the Italian courts, the most dangerous men were never the loudest. They were the ones who said nothing while everyone else scrambled for their favor. Their silence created a vacuum, and vacuums generate pressure. People obsessed over what they were thinking. Allies and enemies alike tried to read meaning into every glance, every absence, every moment of withheld acknowledgement. That's the power of strategic withdrawal. You don't have to destroy your enemies. You just stop feeding them. You stop reacting. You stop explaining. You stop proving. And in that void, they begin to unravel themselves. Because here's the truth Machiavelli knew. People don't fear what attacks them. They fear what ignores them. An attack is engagement. Engagement is validation. Ignoring someone erases them from the board entirely. You become the ghost they can't exorcise, the question they can't answer, The presence they lost access to, and they'll do anything to get it back. When you ignore someone, their brain registers it as physical pain. This isn't poetry, it's neuroscience. The anterior cingulate cortex, the same region that fires when you touch a hot stove, lights up when someone realizes they've been made invisible. Social rejection activates the pain centers of the brain with the same intensity as a broken bone. You didn't curse them, you didn't argue, you didn't even acknowledge their existence, and their nervous system is screaming. Here's what happens in the hours after you withdraw your attention. First, confusion. They replay the interaction. What did I do? What changed? They search for the moment you decided they no longer mattered. This is the diagnostic phase. They're trying to solve a puzzle you didn't give them the pieces to. Then, anxiety. The confusion turns into something sharper. Why aren't they responding? Did I say something wrong? The questions multiply. They check their phone. They rehearse messages they'll never send. They imagine confrontations that will never happen. Then, obsession. This is where it gets dangerous for them, because now they're not just wondering, they're fixating. You've become the thing their mind can't let go of. Every notification that isn't you is a fresh disappointment. Every silence is a new wound. And finally, self-doubt. Maybe I'm not as important as I thought. Maybe I never was. The ignored person begins to rewrite their own value downward, because if you, someone who once acknowledged them, no longer find them worth the effort, what does that say about them? All of this happens without you lifting a finger. You didn't insult them, you didn't attack, you simply stopped feeding their need for your reaction. And in that absence, they devoured themselves. This is why ignoring is more ruthless than any argument you could win. Arguments give people structure, something to fight against, something to process. Silence gives them nothing, and nothing is the cruelest prison. Machiavelli understood this 5 centuries ago. The courtiers who were banished knew their fate. They could grieve, rage, move on. But the courtiers who were simply not acknowledged, they lived in limbo, neither punished nor forgiven, just erased. That psychological ambiguity is the weapon. You haven't told them they're worthless, you've shown them something worse. They're not even worth the explanation. Most men confuse ignoring with running away. They're not the same. Running away is what you do when you can't handle the pressure, when someone gets under your skin and you disappear because you're hurt, angry, or afraid. That's emotional absence. It's reactive, defensive, weak. Strategic withdrawal is different. It's deliberate. You're not leaving because you're overwhelmed. You're leaving because they're not worth the energy. You're present in body, but unreachable in spirit. Physically visible, but emotionally untouchable. The difference is control. When you run, they know they affected you. They see the wound. They know they have leverage. You've shown them where the knife goes in, and they'll use it again. But when you withdraw strategically, you give them nothing. No anger, no hurt, no explanation. You simply stop participating in the game they're trying to play. You're the man at the poker table who folds without showing his cards. They'll never know if you had nothing or if you were holding the winning hand. That uncertainty is the power. In primate hierarchies, the alpha doesn't chase challengers. He doesn't scream. He doesn't justify his position. When a subordinate steps out of line, the alpha simply turns away. No acknowledgement, no confrontation, just calculated indifference. And the subordinate breaks, because exclusion from the group is evolutionary death. The ignored ape doesn't just lose status, he loses survival itself. Humans are no different. We just pretend we are. Strategic withdrawal works because it conserves your energy while burning theirs. You're at rest, they're in chaos. You've moved on, they're still trying to figure out what happened. You're calm, they're obsessing. This is how you become selectively invisible. You don't disappear from the world, you disappear from their world. They see you living, working, thriving, but they no longer have access. You're behind glass they can't break. And that distance is what makes you magnetic. Because people don't desire what's given freely, they desire what's withheld. The woman who's always available becomes boring. The man who's always reachable becomes common. But the one who pulls back, who makes their presence scarce, they become valuable. This is not about playing games. Games require investment. This is about refusing to play at all. You're not strategizing how to win their attention back. You're removing yourself from the board entirely. And that removal is the most aggressive move you can make. Not everyone deserves to be ignored. Some people earn your attention through respect, value, or mutual investment. But 3 categories of people deserve nothing. And the moment you recognize them, you cut them off without hesitation. No explanation, no second chances, no closure. Enemies, those working against you. An enemy is not someone who dislikes you. Dislike is passive. An enemy is someone actively working to diminish you. They undermine your reputation. They celebrate your failures. They sabotage your opportunities while smiling to your face. And here's the mistake most men make. They acknowledge their enemies. They defend themselves. They correct the lies. They try to win people back or prove the enemy wrong. Every word spent on an enemy is a gift. You're giving them the one thing they need to stay relevant, your reaction. Machiavelli warned about this. The prince who responds to every conspiracy elevates the conspirators. He makes them legitimate threats by treating them as such. But the prince who ignores them entirely, he makes them invisible, irrelevant, ghosts shouting into the void. Your enemy needs your attention to exist. Without it, they're just noise. Let them scream, let them plot, let them convince themselves they matter. And while they obsess over you, you build empires they'll never touch. Critics, those who tear down without building. Critics are everywhere. They have opinions about your work, your choices, your life, and they deliver those opinions with surgical precision, convinced they're helping you see reality. They're not. A critic is not someone offering constructive feedback. Constructive feedback comes from someone invested in your success. A critic is someone who derives satisfaction from finding faults. They don't build, they don't create, they don't risk. They sit in the cheap seats and throw stones at the people in the arena. And you will never satisfy them. You could fix every flaw they mention, and they'd find new ones, because the criticism isn't about improvement, it's about control. It's about making you dance to their tune. Every time you adjust based on their input, you shrink. You become what they permit you to be. The man who responds to critics becomes their puppet. The man who ignores them becomes unreachable. Here's what you do. Nothing. You don't defend your choices. You don't explain your vision. You don't justify your path. You let their words fall into silence. And in that silence, you keep building, keep creating, keep moving. They'll still talk. Let them.
Their words mean nothing without your acknowledgement.
Energy vampires are the most insidious because they don't look like enemies. They look like people who need you. They're the ones who always have a crisis, always have drama, always need advice, support, a listening ear, validation. And at first, you give it because you think you're helping. You think you're being a good person. But watch what happens when you stop. They don't thank you for all the times you were there. They accuse you of abandoning them. They guilt you. They manipulate because they were never interested in solving their problems. They were interested in keeping you engaged, in keeping you feeding them attention, time, emotional labor. These people are black holes. You pour energy in and nothing comes back. They drain you under the pretense of need. But the need is never satisfied, because satisfaction would mean they'd have to let you go. You will not fix them. You will not save them. You will only exhaust yourself trying. The strategy is simple. Stop feeding them. No explanation, no final conversation about boundaries, no closure. You just stop being available. They'll reach out, they'll escalate, they'll try to provoke a reaction, any reaction, because reaction is food, and you give them nothing. They'll call you cold, selfish, heartless. Let them. Those words are the sound of someone starving to death because you stopped being their supply. That's not cruelty, that's sovereignty. Ignoring people is not a personality trait. It's a skill, and like any skill, it requires training. Most men fail at this because they confuse indifference with suppression. They think ignoring means forcing yourself not to care, gritting your teeth, pretending the insult didn't land, burying the anger deep enough that no one sees it. That's not indifference, that's repression, and repression always leaks. True indifference is transcendence. You don't suppress the emotion, you rise above it. You see the provocation for what it is, bait, and you choose not to bite. Not because you're afraid of the fight, because the fight isn't worth your currency. The Stoics called this apatheia, not apathy, apatheia, the state where external events no longer dictate your internal condition, where someone can scream in your face and your pulse doesn't change, where betrayal, insult, and rejection slide off you like water off stone. Machiavelli called it virtu, cold mastery over yourself, the ability to act with precision rather than passion, to remain unmoved while others unravel. This is not something you're born with, this is something you forge. Here's how you train it. First, the pause. When someone provokes you, an insult, a betrayal, a disrespectful comment, you feel the heat rise. That's the moment. Don't react, don't speak, don't type. Pause. 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10. Let the impulse pass through you without acting on it. This is not hesitation, this is control. You're teaching your nervous system that reaction is optional. Second, the breath. While you pause, breathe. Slow, deliberate, in through the nose, out through the mouth. This is not meditation, this is recalibration. You're lowering your heart rate, clearing the adrenaline, bringing yourself back to baseline. Because power lives at baseline. Emotion is chaos. Chaos makes you controllable. Third, the release. Let it go. Not because you're forgiving them, not because you're being the bigger person, because holding on to it costs you more than it costs them. Every minute you spend replaying the offense is a minute they own you. Release is not mercy, it's refusing to be occupied territory. This takes repetition. You will fail at first. You'll react. You'll engage. You'll feel the pull to defend, explain, correct. That's normal. The conditioning runs deep. But each time you catch yourself,
Each time you pause instead of reacting, breathe instead of exploding, release instead of holding, you get stronger. The muscle builds, the reflex changes. Eventually, indifference becomes your default. You don't have to force it, it's just who you are. Someone says something designed to wound you, and you feel nothing. Not because you're dead inside, because they don't have the rank to affect you. That's when you know you've arrived. You're no longer playing defense. You're not managing your reactions. You've removed yourself from the game entirely. You're the man standing outside the cage, watching everyone else fight for scraps, wondering why you're not joining in. You're not joining in because you've already won. This is the discipline, and it separates the sovereign from the slave.
Every human interaction is a chess game, and most men lose before they even sit down because they think the goal is to make moves, to respond, to engage, to prove something. It's not. The goal is to control the board, and the best way to control the board is to make your opponent move first. In chess, the player who reacts is the player who loses positioning. Every time you respond to someone else's move, you're playing their game. You're operating within the frame they set. You're dancing to their rhythm. But the player who forces the reaction, who sits in silence while the other person scrambles, adjusts, reaches out, tries to provoke a response, that player controls everything. This is the power dynamic no one tells you about. The one who cares less wins. Not because caring is weakness, but because the appearance of not caring forces the other person to invest more, to chase, to explain, to justify. And every time they do, they reveal their hand. Watch it in business negotiations. The executive who speaks first loses. The one who can sit in silence, who can let the discomfort stretch until the other side breaks and fills it, walks away with the better deal. Watch it in romantic relationships. The person who's always available, always responding, always accommodating becomes predictable, boring, taken for granted. But the person who pulls back, who doesn't respond immediately, who has a life that doesn't revolve around the other person, they become valuable, magnetic, the one being chased instead of the one chasing. Watch it in social hierarchies. The man who's always trying to prove himself, always defending his position, always explaining his worth, he's already subordinate. He's accepted the frame that his value is up for debate. But the man who simply exists in his power, who doesn't argue, who doesn't justify, who lets his presence speak for itself, people bend around him. This is not manipulation. Manipulation requires active deception. This is strategic positioning. You're not lying about who you are. You're simply refusing to play the game on someone else's terms. In war, the general who can hold position while the enemy exhausts themselves attacking wins the battle without fighting. The enemy burns resources, burns morale, burns energy, and the general who waited simply walks through the wreckage. Social dynamics work the same way. Let them exhaust themselves trying to get a reaction from you. Let them burn their credibility trying to drag you into arguments you won't participate in. Let them obsess, strategize, and spiral. You remain still, unmoved, unreachable. And when they're done destroying themselves, you're still standing, untouched, unaffected, unbothered. That stillness is not weakness, it's the ultimate power move, because it says, you are not worth my energy, you are not worth my movement, you are not worth my time. And that message, delivered through silence, through absence, through refusal to engage, hits harder than anything you could say. People respect what they can't control, and you become uncontrollable the moment you stop participating in their games.
From childhood, you are trained to seek approval.
Good grades, good behavior, praise from parents, teachers, authority figures. You learned that validation is the reward, that external acknowledgement determines your worth. And now, as a man, you're still performing for an audience that doesn't matter. You check if they saw your message. You craft responses to prove you're not what they said. You adjust your behavior based on their reactions. You rehearse conversations in your head about what you should have said. You seek their approval like a dog waiting for a treat. You're a prisoner asking your jailers if you're doing a good job. This is the chain. Every time you seek approval from someone who hasn't earned the right to judge you, you hand them power. You make them the arbiter of your value. You become what they permit you to be. And they will never give you enough. Because the moment you stop needing their approval, you stop being controllable. And controllable men are useful. Sovereign men are dangerous. Here's the truth they don't want you to know. Your worth is not up for debate. It's not determined by votes, likes, acknowledgments, or validation from people who've done nothing to earn a seat at your table. Internal sovereignty means you decide. You set the standard. You define success. You choose who gets access to your world and who doesn't. The man who needs approval is a slave. The man who grants it is a king. Most men spend their entire lives in the former category, chasing validation, seeking permission, waiting for someone else to tell them they're enough. And they die waiting, because enough never comes. The goalpost always moves, the standards always shift, and the people whose approval you're chasing don't actually care about you. They care about keeping you dependent. This is why ignoring is so powerful. It's not just about them, it's about you. Every time you withdraw your attention from someone unworthy, you reclaim a piece of sovereignty. You stop asking permission. You stop seeking validation. You become the authority. And when you become the authority in your own life, everything changes. You stop being reactive. You stop being defensive. You stop explaining, justifying, proving. You simply exist. And your existence is enough. There's a point where something shifts. You stop checking if they responded. You stop replaying conversations. You stop caring what they think, what they say, what they do behind your back. Not because you've become cold, because you've become sovereign. The untouchable man doesn't compete for attention. Attention finds him. He doesn't explain himself. His presence is the explanation. He doesn't chase, defend, or justify. He simply exists in his power, and the world adjusts around him. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's forged through repetition, through choosing silence over reaction, through withdrawal over engagement, through indifference over emotion. Each time you pause instead of reacting, you become stronger. Each time you walk away instead of explaining, you become freer. Each time you ignore instead of engaging, you become more powerful. And eventually, you reach a state where nothing touches you. Insults bounce off, criticism doesn't land, manipulation doesn't work, drama doesn't pull you in. You're not numb, you're not broken, you're not disconnected from reality. You've just stopped letting unworthy people occupy space in your mind. You've stopped giving your energy to things that don't serve you. You've stopped playing games you were never meant to win. You become untouchable. This is not arrogance. Arrogance is defensive. It's trying to prove something. This is sovereignty. You're not proving anything to anyone. You don't need to. Your value is not up for negotiation. The untouchable man moves through the world with quiet authority. He doesn't announce his power. He doesn't broadcast his achievements. He doesn't seek recognition. He simply is. And that presence, that calm, that certainty, that unshakable foundation is magnetic. People feel it. They can't name it, but they know when they're in the presence of someone who cannot be controlled. That's what you're becoming. Most men will never understand this. They'll keep reacting, keep explaining, keep giving their attention to anyone who demands it. They'll remain slaves to every opinion, every insult, every provocation. They'll call you cold for ignoring them, arrogant for withdrawing, heartless for refusing to engage. Let them. Their words are the sound of people who need your reaction to feel alive, and you no longer provide that service. You've become something else now, someone who operates outside their economy of attention, someone who reserves his energy for what actually matters, someone who understands that silence is not absence, it's dominance. You don't explain this transformation. You don't defend it. You simply live it. Most men remain in the trap. You are no longer most men.